This is Taiwan Insider, a weekly news roundup brought to you by Radio Taiwan International.
Every week, we give you an inside look at the biggest and most interesting stories coming out of Taiwan. I am Natalie So.
And I'm Andrew Ryan, and here's your week in a minute.
Over 500 same-sex couples married on May 24th as a bill legalizing same-sex marriage took effect. Family, friends, and well-wishers joined several of these couples Saturday for a mass Taiwanese wedding banquet near the presidential office. Taiwan's armed forces are finishing up their most important annual war games, the Hanguang Live Fire exercises. This year's maneuvers included an emergency landing and takeoff by fighter jets on a stretch of highway in central Taiwan. The annual Wanan air raid drills are also finishing up. Throughout the week, different parts of Taiwan have taken turns to shut down for a simulated air raid. Traffic is stopped and pedestrians must seek shelter until the drill concludes. The legislature has approved the nomination of Lee Jin-young to chair of the Central Election Commission, but only thanks to the DPP's majority. The KMT has questioned Lee's fitness for the nonpartisan post due to his former affiliation with the DPP. The nomination vote was tense, with sporadic clashes breaking out between lawmakers of different camps. Taiwan is commemorating the 30th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. At an exhibit opened in the run-up to the anniversary, the deputy head of the Mainland Affairs Council said he hopes Taiwan will become a beacon of democracy for ethnic Chinese people. And that's your Week in a Minute.
Every week at the top of the program, we each come up with a word of the week that we think describes the topics we're discussing this week. Andrew, are you ready to describe my word?
Always.
All right.
B, breakthrough. Bear?
No, that was another episode.
Beach. No.
That's where you want to be?
Beacon.
No. Beacon. Okay. So some prominent people, we know what you're thinking.
The beach.
Vacation time. Yes. All right. Some prominent people in Taiwan are calling Taiwan a beacon. In the good sense. People featured in our program today, a beacon of democracy. And also, we'll be talking about Taiwan's outlying islands, and you need a beacon to travel between them at night, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So.
It's nice to have a lighthouse on some of those islands as a beacon of light.
Yes.
All right, you ready for my word?
R for Ryan? No.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yes.
Remember.
And the reason why I chose remember is because on the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square incident, the 30th anniversary, the student leaders from the pro-democracy protests in Beijing are calling on people to remember that incident in the hopes that history doesn't repeat itself. So it's always important to kind of take a look back at what's happened in the past and remember what's happened. It's a roadmap for the future.
Right, and that is one of our stories in this show. Also coming up, the AmCham White Paper came out, and we talked with the AmCham president about what global companies think of Taiwan's economic outlook. And Andrew will be quizzing us about Taiwan's outlying islands. And we also take a look on social media and see what people are saying about Taiwan's air raid drills that happened this past week.
Plus, do you know where this is? So you can probably guess that it's a bridge. And just a little hint, once it's complete, it will be the longest bridge in Taiwan. So where is it located? We'll have the answer for you at the end of our show in our parting shot.
We now turn to our top story. The 30th anniversary of the Tiananmen incident is approaching. And many activists and scholars have gathered in Taiwan to remember the incident through forums and events.
Now, some of the student leaders from the pro-democracy protests in Beijing were in Taipei earlier this week. They spoke at the opening of a special exhibit on the incident. Let's have a look at this report.
Posters calling for democracy and the Goddess of Democracy statue from the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests are part of a special exhibit underway at the Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall in Taipei. The display runs until June 4th and is one of many events being held in Taiwan to mark the 30th anniversary of the incident. Deputy Mainland Affairs Council Minister Cho Cui-zhen says the purpose of the exhibit is to show the truth about what happened during the brutal crackdown on June 4th, 1989, and to honor the courage and ideals of the Tiananmen activists. We want Taiwan to remain a beacon of democracy, he says. We hope that Taiwan's democratic achievements can influence Hong Kong and China to pursue a better way of life. Tiananmen activist Fang Zhen is in Taipei on his first visit. He says the exhibit is very touching and shows that 30 years ago, the hearts of the people of Taiwan stood with the activists. Fang says the tanks in Tiananmen Square caused the loss of many lives and resulted in the loss of his legs. He says the same regime continues to suppress democracy in China and may do so in Taiwan as well. He hopes Taiwan can continue to be a beacon of democracy and light for China. Tiananmen activist Ur Kai-shi is the honorary chairman of Reporters Without Borders in Taipei. He says Taiwan is a model of democracy. He lives in Taiwan and says Taiwan has been the best country he has ever experienced. That's because, he says, every breath that people take here is full of freedom.
In other news, the American Chamber of Commerce came out with its white paper this week. This is a very influential paper. I talk with the American Chamber of Commerce president about their outlook for the Taiwan economy. But before we get to that, what is the AmCham White Paper and how has it impacted Taiwan? That's the topic of today's Taiwan Explained. In today's Taiwan Explained, I'm going to tell you about the American Chamber of Commerce and its white paper.
All right, Natalie, we have 1 minute on the clock. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, go.
The American Chamber of Commerce in Taipei was founded in 1951. It has over 1,000 members of over 500 global companies. Their mission is to improve the business environment in Taiwan and be an important bridge between Taiwan and the U.S. Every year, they come out with the annual white paper, which is prepared by over 100 professionals. It gives an assessment of Taiwan's economy, recommendations for over 20 sectors, review of last year's progress, and it gives recommendations to the U.S. government. The Taiwan president takes it very seriously. President Taiwan says Taiwan has long benefited from the advice in the white paper. This advice includes, in the first decade, they requested strong IPR protection, and that has been achieved. Now they're asking for a U.S.-Taiwan trade agreement. They're also calling on the Taiwan government not to take a political holiday for the elections. And also, they have cited Taiwan's strengths, such as an excellent workforce, good quality of life, strength in IPR. I'm slow today.
It's okay,
Shall I
you can
finish? Okay,
Yes.
so we have a lot of great strengths here in Taiwan. Also, our open society, manufacturing and supply chain expertise, and our strategic location in the Asia Pacific. And that's today's Taiwan Explained. The U.S.-China trade war has changed the outlook for many industries and countries. How has it affected the outlook for Taiwan's economy? Well, I spoke with the president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Taipei, William Foreman. He tells us what global companies in Taiwan are thinking about Taiwan's economic outlook.
We've polled our members, done a survey, and the one-year outlook for the economy is not as good as last year. I'll put it that way. It dropped by about 10 percentage points, and I think this was largely due to concerns about the U.S.-China trade war. But when we went back and asked our members about the three-year outlook, it went back up to levels of last year. Our members were generally optimistic about the economic outlook.
So how do you think the trade war is affecting Taiwan? What kind of benefits and what kind of losses do we see for Taiwan?
Yeah, it's affecting Taiwan, I think, in a big way. I mean, on the benefit side, we see Taiwanese businesses, factories that are moving back to Taiwan. The government has said that so far it's really exceeded expectations. In ways that it might be hurting Taiwan, you have the restrictions on the Chinese company Huawei. The government has already said it's adjusted downward its economic forecast a couple tenths of a percentage points. Concerns about Taiwanese suppliers to Huawei and what might happen with them.
But there does seem to be an anxiety over China and relations with China. Because China is putting a lot more pressure on Taiwan, especially since the DPP came back to power. So do you think that affects our economic outlook in the eyes of foreign companies?
I think it really does. The China pressure has an effect in Taiwan in many ways. And one important way is that Taiwan finds itself quite often isolated, both diplomatically, politically, and also economically and in the business sphere. And what I'm pointing to specifically is that Taiwan hasn't been able to join a lot of bilateral agreements or a lot of multilateral agreements. And that's something that I think could really weigh on Taiwan even more in the future.
So I did notice in the white paper that was one major suggestion you had, both for the Taiwan government and the U.S. government, was to work towards a bilateral trade agreement, right?
Exactly. We think that's really important. We think a Taiwan with a prosperous, dynamic, stable economy, this is in the United States' is strategic interest.
So how likely do you think a trade agreement would be between the U.S. and Taiwan?
Right now it's challenging, basically for two reasons. One is that Taiwan is really not on the radar screen yet, from what we hear.
Really?
Other countries are on the radar screen, including Japan, the UK, maybe Vietnam.
Really?
And this
About
is
Taiwan?
going to take, yes, they're ahead in line of Taiwan.
No.
So Taiwan needs to get to the front of the line.
That's what you guys help do, right?
That's what we're going to help do. That's what we're going to work hard to do.
What are some of the things that, let's say in recent years, that you have recommended that you've seen progress in?
Oh, in recent years, one of our broader recommendations for Taiwan, and this is kind of the theme of the overview section of our white paper, is that it's time for action. And more specifically, Taiwan can't afford to take a political holiday.
That was funny.
During the
You know
presidential
Taiwan really
election.
well.
Yes.
That was a very good move, or a reminder.
Yes.
Because we're so focused on each candidate, everything they say.
Yes.
And it's actually quite interesting. It's like a soap opera. But it could take up too much attention, right? From the government. That's what you're saying.
Exactly. And when we were preparing the white paper this year, we were being told that make sure you try to get as much done as you can before May, because that's when the island will really start kicking in on top gear on the presidential election.
Again, that was the president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Taipei, William Foreman. For the full interview, check out the Taiwan Today playlist in the RTI English YouTube channel. Up next, Taiwan by Number. Each week in Taiwan by Number, we share a facet of life in Taiwan by way of a number. And this week, we're talking about islands, specifically Taiwan and all of its outlying islands. Natalie, can you guess how many islands there are?
I have no
Total.
idea, but 10.
10? Oh, come on, you can do more than that.
50.
15?
50.
50. All right. Well, that's a very good guess. We'll have the answer for you in just a moment. But first, we want to take you to the outlying island of Kinmen, which is also called Kinmen in Chinese. There's a master craftsman there who is passing down the tradition of turning military shells into kitchen knives. Let's have a look at this report.
For decades, the Wu family has made use of the shell casings that litter the offshore island of Kinmen, their home. The island sits within sight of the Chinese coast, and so it has a long history of shelling. Some shells have been there since 1958, when China fired more than 470,000 shells at the small island over a stretch of 44 days. For generations, the Wus have taken these shells and turned them into fine kitchen knives that have become a symbol of Kinmen. Mr. Wu, now in his 60s, is from the family's third generation of knife makers. He knows all the secrets of how to make a perfect knife from one of these shells. Wu has great respect for tradition, but that doesn't mean there's no room for creativity. The master knife maker allows his young apprentices to explore their craft as they wish. But no matter how they're made, he says, a Kinmen knife should have one important quality. It must be able to cleanly slice through a sheet of flimsy paper.
Fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
All right, now before the video, I asked you a question. How many islands are there total? These are all the Taiwanese
Right.
islands.
I have no idea, so
Yeah.
obviously.
You said 50,
Uh-huh.
and the answer is, let's have a look,
Oh, wow.
166.
You're talking about all those little ones that no one goes to.
Well, you
as
say
well.
that they're all the little ones that nobody goes to, but actually some of them are significant. Some of them even have more than 100,000 people living on them. So these aren't all tiny islands. Of course, once you get to 166,
That may be a tiny one.
they might be tiny ones. So Natalie, I'm going to give you a little quiz, and you can play along as well at home. I'm going to show you some pictures of islands, give you some hints, and ask you to identify them.
I'll try.
You ready?
Yes.
All right. Let's have a look at the first one. Now, this is the only Taiwanese island that's home to a single tribe of indigenous people. Can you guess?
Orchid Island.
That's correct. This is Orchid Island, and those are sacred hand-carved canoes of the Dao people. Now, today, Orchid Island is home to about 5,000 people. 4,200 of them are from the Dao tribe, and this is one of the most well-preserved indigenous cultures in Taiwan because it's on a separate island from the rest of Taiwan.
I heard it's really beautiful. I haven't been there.
It is beautiful. I would recommend it. All right, let's have a look at another island. Okay, so this one, its best known feature is its prison.
Green Island.
That is correct. This is Green Island. What you're looking at there is the Green Island White Terror Memorial Park, which is part of the National Human Rights Museum. Now, what's interesting is a lot of the political prisoners during the White Terror period were kept there all the way up until the 1980s, and some of those prisoners went on to form the ruling party, the Democratic Progressive Party, which is, of course, the ruling party in Taiwan today. Let's have another look at another island. All right, this is the only island in Taiwan, or one of the only ones, that's located in the middle of a lake.
I have no idea. It's so small. I have no idea.
This is Sunwin Lake. Does that help?
But I still don't know the name.
Okay. This is Lalu Island, which is located...
Right.
That's right. It's
Part of that.
located in the middle of Sunwin Lake. It is a sacred place of the Shao people. Legend has it that a white deer led some Shao hunters to the island. It wasn't an island back then. And then the deer disappeared, formed a tree, and that is the spiritual location of their ancestors. So they don't let you walk on that island anymore.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah. All right, let's have another look at another island.
Oh,
Okay. Oh, well, very good.
very famous hearts.
But I'm going to ask you specifically which island.
Oh, I don't remember.
Well, what you're looking at is called the double heart stacked stones, the twin heart weir. So basically they use it to catch fish. These fish swim in, they can't swim out. That is Kinmen Island.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
it is beautiful. Actually, the Penghu Islands are also called the pescadores. It's a Portuguese word for fishermen. And did you know it is the largest archipelago in Taiwan?
That I knew.
You did know that.
I knew that.
In fact, more than half of
How
all
many?
of the islands
how
are
many?
there.
Oh, so about 80, 90 islands over there?
90 islands.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, let's have another look at another island. This is the last one, and this, a little hint, it's one of the farthest islands from the main island of Taiwan. Its most prominent feature is an airport runway.
Is it Mazu?
Nope.
No.
This is Taiping Island,
Ah.
which is better known as Itu Aba. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it, yes. We claim it's ours, right?
That is correct.
Some other people claim it's theirs.
That is correct.
Other
So
countries.
China, Vietnam, Philippines all claim it as theirs. An international court actually said it was just a rock, not an island. However, it is 1.5 kilometers long by 0.5 kilometer wide, so it's pretty significant. And there are people on there. Do you know how many people live there?
100?
220.
Interesting.
They're mostly military or Coast Guard. There are 4 civilians living on
And
the
are they
island.
Taiwanese?
Yes, they
They're all
are.
Taiwanese.
That's correct.
So it is our island.
Yes, it is administered by Taiwan. That is correct. So that's a little quiz about islands here in Taiwan. Hope you enjoyed that. Up next, we're going to show you #Taiwan.
This week on #Taiwan, we take a look at what people are saying about the air raid drills that went on throughout Taiwan this week.
The annual Wan'an exercises were held every afternoon from 1:30 to 2 p.m. Monday through Thursday. We all got alarms on our cell phones and you had to stay off the streets. We're going to start off with a tweet about the president. This is the Youth Daily News, which is a military newspaper. They tweeted photos of the president observing the emergency response and also raising, relieving, and texting the alarm.
So I guess we got our text from the president.
That's right.
Personally. That is really cool.
All right, let's have a look at this next tweet. This is from Nicholas Smith, and she says, normal life comes to a standstill in #Taiwan. During an annual air raid drill, phones buzz with a missile warning and sirens fill the air. A sad reminder that while life goes on, the fear of a future Chinese invasion is never far from people's minds.
And top officials also tweeted. Let's take a look. This Facebook post from Premier Susan Tong gives the times and dates, but you may be wondering about that no dinosaur sign on the right. It says there's 150,000 Taiwan dollar, nearly 5,000 US dollar fine for wandering outside during a drill.
And the reason for the cute no dinosaur sign, we actually have a video to explain that. Have a look at this. So 3 years ago, a guy in Kaohsiung dressed up as a dinosaur and went wandering outside during the air raid exercises. He was later caught and fined, and he shot a video apologizing for setting a bad example. Look at that.
That's funny.
It is funny, but also it is a bad example. So don't do that.
Don't get any bright ideas, Andrew.
I'll try not to. I'll try to refrain.
Okay, so that's our hashtag Taiwan for this week. And do follow us on all relevant social media. We'd love to hear from you. Leave us a comment or give us story tips.
And finally today, we're going to leave you with a parting shot. Now, at the beginning of our show, we showed you a photo. We want to show you that again now. And we said that this was of course, it's a bridge. Once complete, it will be the longest in Taiwan.
Can you figure out where it is? Well, let's take a look at our parting shot.
This is the Kinmen Bridge, which is still under construction. It will connect Taiwan's offshore Kinmen Island with the nearby Liu Island. It has some impressive stats. It will be 5.4 kilometers long, almost exactly double that of San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge. And it stands 47 meters above the sea, allowing cargo ships carrying up to 5,000 tons to pass underneath.
The challenges facing the construction team are arguably just as formidable. Those are supporting beams. Each one of them must be drilled deep into the granite ocean floor. The company has also resorted to an advanced construction method called cofferdams. Those are large water-sealed metal cages. They'll be sunk into the ocean, and the workers will complete the rest of the work inside them. It's a very impressive engineering feat, to say the least.
Wow. And it's going to be completed, I guess the first phase is going to be completed very soon, right?
Right, next year.
In 2020?
Yes,
Yep.
next year. And we don't know the final date of completion, but we'll definitely keep an eye on that.
Alrighty. Well, that's this week's Taiwan Insider. We hope you enjoyed our show today. Be sure to connect with us on social media and leave a comment below.
Yes, we would love to hear from you, and check out our links below for more information about the topics we discussed today. For Taiwan Insider, I am Natalie So.
And I'm Andrew Ryan. See you next week.
Bye.